A very, very good evening to you on a Monday night, and welcome to the West Ham Weekly on the West Ham Voice channel. I'd like to ask if you all had a really good weekend, but I'm guessing I already know the answer to that. It hasn't been great, has it? The last 8 days of football that relates to West Ham United has been pretty dismal. So I'm not really gonna go much into the detail of each game. Olympiacos. I did a review on Olympiacos on the night of the game when I was out in Athens. I did a review on the game against Everton on Sunday. So you can have a look at both of those if you want a bit more detail about each game. But I am going to talk about the nature of what's going on. And of course, the news today, or the news over the last day or so, that David Moyes is now under scrutiny, is under threat. Kind of deja vu. We've heard it all before. But is it any different this season to what it might have been last season? Going to look into that. Look into some of the managerial options that are starting to be rumoured again. Again, pretty much similar to what it was this time last season. And of course, I'm going to look at all the other news. And I'm going to start. I'll start with your comments, and I'll see who's in the chat. We'll start with that, and then we'll go into the first part of the show. Good evening to you, Anthos. How are you? I'm very well, as well as I guess any West Ham fan can be at this moment in time. Good evening to you, Sharky. Never boring being a West Ham fan. Never is. We wouldn't be West Ham fans if it was boring, would we? Don't want to be Man City fans winning everything, do we? Good evening, Bill. The disappointment of Thursday, Sunday will change Wednesday with a win against Captain Black's B team. I don't want to hear Gooner fans saying number 41 made the right decision. Let's hope we absolutely stuff them. I will talk about that game a little bit later on in the show as well. Very briefly. Usual, good evening to you. Lingard wasn't signed up in the Camel League. I'm fearful the circus around him and West Ham will start yet again. You're probably absolutely right. But that will depend on who might be in charge of West Ham United in terms of manager come the January transfer window. Will it be David Moyes? Flameur, I hope you're well, mate. I would like to be positive tonight, but thinking that David C. still here, I don't think I can. It's not easy. I've got to be honest. I mean, I had quite a few debates on the chat in my review of the Everton game with some people after in the chat in the video, and even I can't really support what's happened over the last few games. Foxes, good evening to you. We've got Super David Moyes, 10 at the back and 1 in attack. Not even 1 in attack, unfortunately. Mikey, good evening to you. About Piss take this 6-game rule so he can lose 5 in a row and win the 6, then keep his job for another 6 and repeat. Sooner this old cretin leaves the club, the better. We know that, mate. Good evening to you, Anthony. I hope you're well, mate. Thank you for joining me. Jack, great to see you out on Thursday. On Thursday. On Wednesday and Thursday over in Athens. Fantastic to see you, mate, and really nice to have met your young girl, your daughter. It was fantastic. So thank you, mate. Very disappointed with the lineup on Thursday. As soon as I saw it, I knew we were in bother. We needed a strong lineup, not the one that was basically struggled against Lincoln. You know what? I agree. Let me start with that for a moment, because I agree with you. I think it was a little bit disrespectful to Olympiacos, thinking that we could go into that game with a kind of weakened lineup. But I broke the team down. And I guess, the problem was that we saw one name on the team sheet, and that was Danny Ings. Because if you look at the rest of the team, you kind of would have said to yourself, well, that's okay. That's not really too bad. But I guess with Danny Ings up front, with the greatest of respect to Danny Ings, he has been a superb striker in the Premier League, but he has been a superb striker. He no longer is. Good evening to you. Anyway, Jack, good to see you last week, mate. Good evening, Clive. I hope you're well, mate. Thank you for joining. Good evening, Mark. Evening all. I'm Moyes in, but it's hard justifying what he did in the past to what I'm seeing on the pitch. Next game will tell. It's going to be interesting. We'll probably go out and beat Arsenal on Wednesday night. I know, as crazy as it sounds. Adam, good evening to you. Moyes is stuck in his ways. It's defensive first, then maybe nick a goal and hang on. And he's ruining players and won't play Mubama when Antonio is no good. We all lose our youngsters if he stay. We will lose our youngsters if he stay. And I will start with Mubama and the news that broke out earlier today. Ralph, good evening to you. I'm livid with this Mubama story. Get Moyes out of my club. Anthony, I don't blame Mubama not signing a new contract. After all, he wants to play regular in the first team. He should be our number 9 at the start of the season. Now, look, I want Mubama to play. Don't get me wrong, but I don't think he's necessarily ready to be our number 9 at this moment in time. But I do want him to get a bit more game time, than he's had. Mikey. Mark Alexander Moyes embarrassing. Well, everyone's got an opinion, Mikey. As you know, this show, we all welcome all opinions. We may not agree with all of them, but we welcome them. Good evening to you, Ed. Thank you very much for your message the other day. Really, really appreciated, Ed. Flimmer, Arsenal will beat us 5-0. Brentford will do us 3-0. Olympiacos will do 2-0. And Moyes will say what else you want. I'm not that pessimistic. Adam, good evening to you, mate. I hope you're well. Good evening to you, Andy. I hope you're well. Thanks for joining, mate. Good to see you here. Bill, the motivation against Olympiacos must have been missing and the Horlicks was given out early. Moyes is culpable for that result because of the negativity surrounding his comments. His comments were not good. His comments to suggest that he needed to play some of the fringe players was really frustrating. Really, really stupid of him to have done that. When you talk about team effort, you talk about the squad as a team, one team. You say, I've got a team of 15 players, 16 players, 17 players, however many you have. Not to say I needed to give my fringe players some game time. What message does that give them? That was bad. That was poor man management by David Moyes. And like I've said in the past, where credit is due, I'll give it. Where criticism is due, I will give that too. John, good evening to you, mate. What am I rushing for? He's never on time. I was actually, wasn't I? Well, more or less. Good evening to you, James. I hope you're well, mate. Ouch indeed. Black Country, I hope you're well. Moyes out is destroying our club. Negative football and boring tactics. Andy, why would a Mubama sign a new contract whilst Moyes is still our manager? He knows he will get less than 0 minutes in the Premier League this season. I'm worried about that one, and I will talk about it a bit more in a moment. Good evening to you, Steve. I hope you're well, mate. Thank you for joining. Jack, gutted if Mubama's story is true. Why bother with an academy at all? Look at young Ferguson at Brighton as an example. Good evening, Daniela. Thanks for your message, Daniela. Daniela sent me a message earlier on today. I kind of only just read it half an hour ago, so my apologies. And she did, trying to be on the positive. And you know what I'm like, always try to be on the positive. She said, remind the audience that since 1901, we've only had 17 managers in our history. With John Lyle and Ron Greenwood and others, etc. And Moyes, like it or not, has been our most successful manager in the Premier League, which is absolutely right. But it is getting even Daniela has ended up saying, but I think maybe it's time for him to go. So she's absolutely right. We pride ourselves, don't we, on West Ham United being a club, about not stacking managers and sort of like a family, etc. But sometimes you start getting the feeling that one or two players, one or two managers, kind of outstay their welcome. Jerry, good evening to you, mate. I hope you're well. Good evening to you, Dom. I hope you're well, mate. Thank you for joining. Hello, Montana. How are you? I have a feeling Steidten has a good plan for the new manager. I wish we get one like Postecoglou. I've got some ideas that I'll run past you later on. Clive, please. Yes, look, if you're new to the channel, please do hit the subscribe button. Please do hit the like button and that bell notification to let you know when the next show is on. Thank you for reminding everyone, Clive. Good evening to you, Mark. I hope you're well. Good weekend until Sunday. Well, no, I got back on the Friday after, the defeat in Athens, and then potted around on Saturday. We did a few things, and then on Sunday went and saw us get beat. So it hasn't been a good weekend at all, mate. Flimmer, you're looking great. He hasn't gone. He's still here. Good evening to you, Paul. I hope you're well. Andy again. Last 3 games have gotten worse. Plumbing to lower depths. Sorry, Stel. Time is up for David. Time is up now. Well, I will debate that. I will talk about that, and we're going to have a good opportunity to, say our bits later on. Adam, Olympiacos was a poor performance, but Sunday against Everton was a shit show. Paqueta throwing himself to the ground all the time, and the team couldn't pass to each other and had no ideas. Now, here's a question for you guys, and I did kind of ask this during, the game against Villa, the review against Villa, and the review against Olympiacos, and the review against Everton. It's all very well, and rightly so. People can criticise Moyes and his tactics, and I'm not sort of disagreeing with some of the tactics. Safety first, even that isn't happening. Safety first, and then try and attack, etc. But when a player's on a pitch, or when players are on the pitch and they're mispassing the ball, I mean, are they trained to do that? In on the training ground, it was happening against Villa. It happened. It got even worse against Olympiacos. Mavropanos must have thought he was back in a Greek side, and passing to the Olympiacos players on several occasions. Paqueta doing the same thing. And then it carried on into the Sunday as well. Now, okay, you can start losing confidence. And yes, the manager's responsible for building up that confidence, getting you going, etc. But there's no accounting for poor play. And as much as I do think that Moyes has got a lot to answer for in terms of our setup and in terms of our play, our tactics, etc., he can't account for players not being able to pass to their own teammates. I think our games were poor, were made poorer because of the really bad, sort of display by some players. Paqueta, as someone just mentioned, going down. He's a fantastic player. He doesn't need to go down. If he's getting frustrated, then you know what? Moyes should have the bottle and say to him, forget about it, mate. I'll put you on the bench, until you get your rhythm back, and then I'll start playing you again. Just to teach him that he can't just keep falling over every time. It was really frustrating. Really, really frustrating seeing him doing that. Montana. Good evening to you, Hammers. Gary, good evening, mate. Nice to see you. Montana. Man City fans, I've never met one. Good evening, Hammerette. I hope you're well. We're still slightly mahusive, just not on or off the pitch. No, we're not. Good evening to you, John. I hope you're well. Are we going to talk bullshit again? You tell me, mate. You decide after you've heard me talk bullshit. Anthony, Arsenal are going to be missing 4 key players, and 41 might tell Arteta he doesn't want to play. I don't think it's up to him. If he's selected, he's going to have to. Good evening, Kent. I hope you're well. I gave Moyes 10 games, and now I'm Moyes out. Thanks for the memories of Prague. I'll never forget, but Moyes out. Mate, that's interesting coming for you. I know everyone is, I know everyone's level-headed, but wow. I'm not surprised, but I get that it's beginning to become a drain on the fan base. Seeing the way we played the last 3 games has been abysmal. John, what's the betting? My luck says Moyes gets fired and takes the Ireland job. Mind you, Man City won me 40 euros, so maybe my luck is changing. Good evening, Gary. I hope you're well, mate. Schmiegel, good evening to you, mate. Watching this and the Ballon d'Or ceremony at the same time. Oh, yeah, that's on, isn't it? Who's winning that? Lee, good evening to you, mate. I hope you're well. Jerry, I'm not unhappy Paqueta isn't playing in the next league game. Something has gone awry with him. I totally agree with you. I don't know what it is, but he's kind of lost his mojo a little bit, hasn't he? He seems not preoccupied. Not that he doesn't want to be there, but there's something odd about his game. Maybe he doesn't like being played out on the left. It could be that. It could be that. And that could be Moyes' fault. Billy Bob, good evening to you. You've gently caressed the like button. Thank you very much, mate. Good evening. Andy, Moyes disrespected the Greek outfit, but by that, they disrespected the Europa League, in my opinion. Yeah, but you look at that team sheet. I wish I had it in front of me. You look at that team sheet and you would have turned around and said, in all fairness, maybe apart from Danny Ings, it wasn't that bad a team. You kind of would have expected, all right, Fabianski was ill that day. I expect him to play on Wednesday. But you kind of expected the likes of Kera, Mavropanos, Ogbonna, Emerson playing, etc. You kind of expected a mixture of midfielders like Ward-Prowse and so on. Kudish played and so on. Ben Rama, Fornals, they had terrible games. But on paper, you would have gone, on the whole, that wasn't necessarily a bad team. I think what did it for a lot of people, certainly did it for me, was seeing Danny Ings leading the line. And you just knew, that Danny Ings leading the line was just not going to be in our favour. But on the whole, you kind of look at that team, and you kind of would have gone, well, that's not too shabby a team, you know, in all fairness. But I don't know. Am I doing the likes of Ogbonna? All right, Ogbonna, he made a massive mistake in that game. I don't know. People say that Areola should have called, or it was loud in there. It was loud in that stadium. For all I know, maybe Areola did. I don't know if anyone, you know, I haven't even seen the highlights, so I can't even tell you whether Areola did or didn't make a call for that ball. Keith, good evening to you. I hope you're well, mate. Good evening to you. Old man, I hope you're well too. Let's scroll down a little bit. Let's get a few more comments in. Hammerek, not just Paqueta though. Seems most of the side can't be asked. I really think there is something big hoping on here. Well, you know, I don't know what's going on, because when you look at what Bowen said when he signed his long-term contract, you know, 6-year contract or whatever, 7-year contract, whatever he signed, he talked about, I'm looking forward to the big project, you know, coming up, etc. And players have been talking about, you know, future plans and project. And then you kind of look at, well, what does that mean? Does that include David Moyes, or is there something else going on? I don't know. But, you know, if players are aware of some project happening, then they should be a little bit more than asked, shouldn't they? Daniela, Hamret, I'm okay. Antonio just giving it large and not delivering. Antonio has been giving it large and not delivering for a few years now. But every time I say that, people have a go at me. Paqueta's head is in Manchester. I just don't know if it is, because I'll tell you something for nothing. You know, he won't get signed by Man City if he keeps putting in performances like he has done over the last few games. You know, Man City will go, well, hang on a minute. You know, why would I want to why would I want to buy you if you're not putting in the performances now? Andy, good evening, all. Moyes is like an old decrepit vampire, sucking the skill, enthusiasm, and passion out of the whole team to try and preserve his youthful looks. He needs to go now. Schmiegel, if you look at what went wrong for Moyes at Man United, it's reminiscent of what's going on at West Ham. Player favouritism, I agree with that. Backroom staff leaving, indecisive in the transfer window, and it goes on. Yeah, look, player favouritism, I was absolutely dumbfounded when I looked at the team sheet on Sunday and I saw Souček on the bench and Kudus starting. I thought, wow, you know. Stephen, good evening to you. I don't think Moyes has lost the support of the players. I don't think so too. I know it's, you know, this was the story that was coming out last season. It was kind of proven wrong. Players actually came out and dispelled that rumor especially at the end of last season when we won the Europa Conference, etc. And I agree with you, Stephen. I don't think the players have lost support. Moyes has lost the support of the players. More than that, we did not seem to have a team plan as to how to beat Everton. That I agree with. He does get lost, doesn't he? You know, I'm going to criticise. He gets lost. When it comes to us being on the front foot, we're no good at it. You know, we've got a fucking great team. You know, we've got great individual players. But when it comes to having an attack in motion, we don't look like we know what we're doing. Everton are not a good side, but realised at half-time that West Ham had no plan. I kind of agree with you. Lee, I hope you're well, mate. Hit the like button. We're massive. I hope you're well. Thank you for joining, mate. John, we are not going to beat Arsenal because they don't want to play for Moyes. I'm with Stephen and what he said. I don't think that's the issue. Because if how did we start at the beginning of the season? We started really, really well. And people are now coming out and saying, oh, we were lucky against Chelsea and we were lucky against Brighton. And all. No, you know, you make your own luck. And I think we did look very good at the beginning of the season. And you could see the smile on players' faces. Bowen coming out and saying, I love playing in this way. It helps me to score goals, etc. So I don't think we were lucky. I think we made our own luck in the first few games. Something has gone. That spark has gone in the last 3 games. If they weren't playing for Moyes, we wouldn't have had those results at the beginning of the season. Hammerette. I am of the belief that Mubama isn't ready for the Premier League yet. Perkins thought he was ready. Moyes didn't use him, so he went off, didn't do him any favours. Think Mubama needs to be a bit more patient. I don't disagree with that. I'll tell you what, let me stop there and go into that, because that's the main sort of headline, you know, that David Moyes has reportedly tonight rejected a new contract extension with West Ham United. He's currently in his final year of his contract. I'm really surprised by that. I thought he had another year. And West Ham have approached him with an offer of an extension, but the players reported to have rejected the initial offer. Now, let's make that clear. He's rejected, or his agent Apparently, he's got a new agent as well. And you know what new agents are like? They're going to want to get as much buck as possible. So they've rejected the initial offer. Now, there are rumours, and I guess this bit I don't know. And I think it's people speculating. There are rumours that he's upset because, well, not upset, but he's unsure of his future at West Ham United because he's not getting enough game time. Now, I don't know how true that is, but it's a very easy one to throw out there to suggest that Mubama is, concerned about his future. And I'll tell you for why. And it's interesting that Hammerett has mentioned Sonny Perkins. Sonny Perkins we got from, I think it was Charlton. He's not really a West Ham player. I think he's a Tottenham fan, to be honest with you, or something like that. I don't want to do him a disservice if he's not. But Perkins was not a West Ham boy through and through. Mubama is. So I think we've got much more chance of securing a long-term deal with Mubama than we had with Perkins. Perkins was never there to want to stay with West Ham United. I think he thought delusions of grandeur. I think Mubama would be a little bit concerned about not getting enough game time. I get that. But I think he will sign a new contract with West Ham United. And I kind of agree with Hammerett. I don't think he's quite ready to be a regular starter at West Ham. Having said that, I think there's no reason why, knowing that Danny Ings hasn't really got the legs for it anymore, etc. There's no reason why that Mubama can't come on for the final 5-10 minutes of a game and get a bit of game time. That bit I think is wrong from Moyes, to be quite honest with you. I said in the summertime that I was pretty much convinced that Mubama would go out on loan. There were about half a dozen teams that were looking at wanting to sign him, championship teams, etc. And I think that would have done him a massive favour if he'd gone out on loan. We could have put in that loan deal. Look, we'll have a right to call him back at any time, during the transfer window. So I don't understand why David Moyes didn't allow the young lad to go out on loan, because I think it would have done him the absolute world of good if he did go out on loan. There were teams queuing up to sign Mubama, so we see the value in him. We see the worth in him. But I think Moyes has made the mistake. I think Moyes has made the mistake, even if it's just to give him 5 minutes. I think so far this season, he's had something like about 26 minutes of playtime. I think he had something like 24 minutes against Lincoln, and he had a minute against Freiburg. Pointless coming on, for 1 minute. So I do think the mistake is that when Moyes is looking for something different up front, why not give Mubama that opportunity over Ings? Who knows what could happen? Who knows what, with his enthusiasm, his pace, etc. That might cause a bit of upset with the opposition defenders. So I think that bit is wrong by Moyes. I think Mubama should have been given a bit more of a sniff than he has done. You've only got to look at the young player that played for Everton at the weekend, Branthwaite. I think I misspelt his name. Jared Branthwaite, who played at the weekend, 21 years of age. He's been given a chance to play. And didn't he look pretty good at the weekend? He actually had Antonio in his pocket for most of the game. And so we know that it's possible that your young player can come in and they can do the business. They can demonstrate how good they are. I'm not advocating for Mubama to start a game, and I'm not advocating to play a whole game, but I am advocating, and I think a lot of fans would agree, that he should at least be given 5 minutes, 10 minutes, 15 minutes even a game. Now, interestingly, I think he might get game time in the Cup against Arsenal on Wednesday. It's the irony. So I think he will. Will he start? I don't know. I think that the rumour is that Danny Ings is likely to start again. If he does, I can't see him ruffling any feathers in the Arsenal defence, even if they do play their B team. But I would love to think that Mubama can be given a little bit of game time on Wednesday. I think the contract situation will be sorted out. I think it's a little bit frustrating. It's come at a really bad time for everyone, with all the news, with all the the people feeling down because of the recent results, etc. That piece of news has come at a bad time. But I do genuinely think that Mubama will sign a contract in due course. Will he get more game time? Look, if Moyes is adamant that, or if Moyes is not going to use him, or even if he doesn't use him for 5-10 minutes, etc., let the boy go out on loan. let him go out on loan for the second half of the season and get some much needed game time. I think he'll be absolutely worthy of that. Right, going to comments. Paul, Moyes can't play players in their preferred positions, ignores youth, and has one tactic. Matthew, good evening to you. We're not even losing heroically with dignity. We're losing ugly. What's left to cheer? Time for Moyes to move on. A new philosophy is needed. Good evening to you, Delton. I'm hoping a friendly lighting will shake up Moyes to balance the team properly. I don't understand what you mean. I'm hoping a friendly lighting will shake up Moyes to balance the team properly. What do you think? Let me know. What do you think will help to balance the team? What needs changing? I mean, look, I kind of think I know, but then I'm like you guys, for me, I think Souček, it was right to drop him for Mubama. For Kudus. But what about Antonio? He needs a bit of a rest, doesn't he as well? Jerry, I wanted 50 minutes of my life back after Sunday's first half. I might as well have the other 51 minutes back as well. Wasn't it an awful day? It was horrible. It wasn't very, very good. I had a good friends of mine asked me to take their boy to West Ham United, his first ever game at West Ham. And I gave them options. I said, look, here are the games coming up. So you tell me which one you want and I'll get you and I'll get him a ticket for it. And they chose Everton, or he chose Everton. And I went, okay, then, thinking to myself, this could be a nightmare. And it turned out to be. I kind of asked him, I said, Blake, what did you think of the game? And he went, West Ham didn't do very well, did they? Fucking understatement, mate. 9 years old, his first ever game at West Ham United, and he had to see that boring shit show. But there you go. Good evening to you, Aaron. I hope you're well. Back to West Ham I grew up loving. I missed it. I get that, mate. Totally get that. What about Michael Carrick, Kevin? If Moyes goes, I don't think so. He's not on my list. Not short list. He's not on my list. I don't think so. I don't think he's having a great time at the moment, is he? I know he had a pretty decent season last season, I don't know where Middlesbrough are at the moment, but I don't think they're doing as well as they were last season. Anthony, Mubama is way better than Perkins. Absolutely way better. And I even said it. I remember when there was an outcry for Perkins going, what are we doing? We're losing all our youth, etc., etc. And I said, I don't think he's the real deal. I said, I actually think Mubama is. And that's why I'd be a little bit disappointed if we lost Mubama. I didn't care that Perkins went. Look at him now. I think he's out on loan from Leeds to, I don't know, Oxford or something like that. So, but for Mubama, I think if we lose him, I think that will be disappointing. James, just remember that the Messiah has risen and shone upon his Lord disciples in the past. So we should expect the second coming again. Even I'm worried now, James, to be quite honest with you, mate. John, any news on Tim's jet? Is it fueled and flight plan to Germany sorted? Never know. Mark, good evening to you, mate. I hope you're well. Can you tell Wiggy it's time to start wearing the conference final shirt again? His latest monstrosities ain't working. That is so true. But it's been retired. The shirt that won us the Europa Conference League, Mark, has been retired. Hammer it. Anthony, not saying he isn't. I don't know what Anthony said to you, but I have to have a bit of trust in Moyes to know when youth are ready for this. Oh yeah, with Mubama. Yeah, I'm with you, Hammer it. I don't think Mubama is ready to play regular football, but I would absolutely love to see him play a little bit of game, get a bit of game time. Epic, good evening to you. We should get the Olympiacos manager. Nah. I think, they did all right against us. They do all right in the Greek league. But other than that, I'm not so sure, mate, to be honest with you. Let's scroll down. Good evening to you, David. When I heard that Kudus was playing, I thought he was going to play on the left and all three can switch roles. But for some unknown reason, Paqueta still plays on the left. An opportunity missed. Well, no, because I think, as I said quite a few times before, and especially when we were looking at signing Kudus, one of the areas of the pitch that he's never played in professionally has been on the left. He doesn't play that role. He actually said himself his preference is the middle, and I think he actually played really well on Sunday. I think he was one of the few players that really battled hard and tried to make something happen. The unfortunate thing I'm afraid when you've got a creative player like Kudus and creative player like Paqueta, you need a target. You need someone you're gonna be able to have an understanding with. And I don't want to knock Antonio just for the sake of it, because Antonio's not the only player that was awful on Sunday, because, as I said, Paqueta was awful. James Ward-Prowse didn't play well. Several players didn't play well. But when you don't have that kind of link, that understanding with the front man, it's going to be difficult. And Kudus kind of, sometimes he got the ball and there were times he wasn't really sure, well, where do I take this now? I've got no one in front of me. So it had to be laid off sideways and sideways. The number of times we laid the ball off sideways or backwards was absolutely frustrating. But yeah, in a long answer to a short comment, Kudus doesn't play out on the left, mate. Adam, the most annoying thing is when you lose 3-1 against Liverpool and City and Antonio is doing nothing, why not Mubama for the last 15 minutes? Give him a chance, how you get experience. That I agree with. I think that's the sort of, when we're losing, the game's gone, put him on. It will give him a taste. It will give him a taste. All right, it may not be great coming on when we're losing, but it will still give him a taste of a little bit of football time. Delton, I don't think our coaching of passing, keeping the ball, well, what are we doing on the training pitch? Because not just Moyes. I mean, he's got a team of coaches. What are they saying? Pass the ball short. That don't make sure it doesn't reach your teammate. What? I mean, so many misplaced passes over the last 3 games. Good evening to you, Fred. I hope you're well. Thank you for joining, mate. Old man. Ward-Prowse looks leggy. Alvarez is not a creative player. We know that. Should stick to defending, not passing. Our midfield looks swapped around too much. Well, that's interesting. Alvarez, because I was singing his praise and I still do. I think he's great. But he looked a little bit... Look, he came back from a couple of players last week when they came back from international duty. I think that was a bit of a mistake to play him almost straight away, because I think Alvarez was one of the last to come back. It doesn't look like he's kind of fully recovered from international duty, flying all over the place. But yeah, Alvarez, just keep him there in defensive midfield and don't let him... I mean, a poor bloke. He was the only one that actually had an attempt on target. Well, he had a shot. He had a couple of shots and then went way off. But at least he had a go. Everyone looked scared on Sunday to have a shot. Bill, are these avoidable yellow cards a way of not playing under Moyes' tactics? No, because you only miss one game and then you're back again. And I've got a theory that the 2 players on yellows who are going to miss the next league game will be playing on Wednesday. Black Country. Sorry, Stell. Players not doing it on the pitch. There's no playing for Moyes. Body language says it all. It's even negative football at home games. I get what you're saying, Black Country, but I genuinely don't buy into this thing about not playing for the manager. Look, I'm not suggesting for a minute that his tactics are right or anything like that. But like I said earlier on, in the early games, we were playing fine. We were playing really good football. But something's a little bit lackluster at the moment. But I can't buy, maybe there are players that don't buy into Moyes' tactics. I wouldn't be surprised if there were. But at the same time, they're professional footballers. They should be trying their best. And something's amiss above and beyond just the tactics of the manager. Schmiegel, what does everyone think of Sullivan's 5-game match rule? It's 6, and I'm going to talk about that in a minute as well. He seems to do this with every manager, then gives them more game time, even if they lose most of them or all of them. I'm going to talk about that in a minute when I come on a bit more about Moyes. PCADS, I called it that Moyes would start strong, then would crumble by November. Moyes is survivor, 3 wins incoming, which could be exactly what might happen. Good evening, Rani. I hope you're well. Can't believe you started. Sometimes I'd surprise you all. John, good evening to you, mate. I hope Moyes ain't around long enough to unskill and demotivate Kudus and the new guys like he has to Kera, Benny, Fornhousings, Paqueta, Ward-Prowse. Moyes kills talent and all motivation. Good evening to you, Si. I hope you're well. Can't see anything but defeat against Arsenal and Brentford. Well, this is West Ham, isn't it? They might surprise us and go out and scrape a win against Arsenal and then go out and smash Brentford. I'm dreaming. Are you going on Wednesday and are you going on Saturday as well? I hope to see you there. Mark, maybe Paqueta. Oh, I'll send you a message as to where we're drinking and maybe we'll have a drink. Mark, maybe Paqueta worried about betting hearing. Well, that's interesting because I think I talked about this about 2 weeks ago that he was up against the FA. They kind of questioned him, etc. He said, he's not guilty, etc., etc. And he's actually since apparently been asked to hand over his mobile phone, which I believe he's done so. So they're looking into that. It's all gone quiet. So maybe he's not worried about it. Who knows? Maybe we've been watching how City play. Maybe he feels he's being played out of position for no good reason. I'll go with the last one. I'll go with him being out on the left. I don't think is great. But then when you've got a real conundrum here, because when if you're going to try and fit Kudus and Paqueta into the starting lineup, two very skillful players, slightly different, but both number 10-ish. Where do they play? That's an interesting one. That's probably why Paqueta's going out on the left at the moment to fit him in. Is it right? I don't know. Delton. Too many changes against Olympiacos. They were a yard off the pace. And here's another interesting thing, because a lot of people have said, play your best team, etc. And who would be a manager? Because if you play your best team and then they get injured, players get injured, and then you got a league game the following Sunday, then everyone will go, why did you play your best? Why didn't you rest players? Why aren't you using the squad? Why aren't you using the full squad, etc., etc.? So you play your best team, and then you get criticised because you're not using the squad and you get injuries, etc. You play your squad team and then you get criticised for not playing your best team. So it is a tough conundrum. I'm not backing, I'm not saying, like trying to defend Moyes, etc. But it's a massive conundrum. And to me, we've got a squad of something like about 16 players that I think are very, very decent. We've still got a few holes. We need another right back. We need another left back. I think we need cover for Alvarez. We absolutely, most certainly need a striker. But on that squad on the whole, you look at it on paper and you say to yourself, it's not that bad. There's something like 15, 16, 17 players that are good enough. Good evening, Freedom. I hope you're well. Will Bowen go into one of his off spells again? Always seems to happen to him after an England call-up. Not just Bowen. I think Bowen endeavoured on Sunday against Everton. Didn't have the best of games, but he endeavoured. But no, I don't know. Hopefully not, because we need him. We need him to get back into the spark that he had at the beginning of the season. John, Rice will be in his glory on Wednesday night. I hope Alvarez takes him out. Steve, good evening to you. Evening, Stel, and all. I better keep quiet after that shit performance. Don't get me started on Antonio. Just let it out, mate. John, good evening to you. Moyes is good at some things, but making good players crap. Hammerett, I can take a loss of the players show. I can take a loss if the players show heart, determination, and promise. All we've seen is shit defending. Shit final third. Blimey, you're all swearing tonight. You never hear me bloody swearing. Bill, was Bowen taken into the Steiden circle of trust with him signing, and Moyes was nowhere in sight? Something is happening in the background, and I just wonder, all this thing about Moyes out anyway, I just wonder if Moyes was going to leave anyway at the end of this season. Is at the end of his contract. I don't think there's West Ham United are looking at giving him a renewed contract, to be quite honest with you. And I just wonder if there has been talk about there's a project happening, a Steiden project. If you remember, when I did a show when Steiden was about to sign, I talked about Steiden. He said he was looking forward to a new long-term project in another country, and he talked about the Premier League, etc. So there's something brewing that we're not quite aware of just yet. Good evening to you, Justin. Antonio and Moyes, both on borrowed time. Don't disagree with that. Ian K, it's sad times. Well, we've had worse. Last season was a lot worse than this one. Good evening to you, Sean. I hope you're well. No system. Moyes is clueless. Clive, would a different manager make our players any more effective in transition? Some will say yes, they would. Yes, a new manager would. There will always be that new manager sort of like a burst, wouldn't there? And a new burst of energy, etc. Just because a new manager comes in. Schmiegel, by the way, please forgive me. I can't list all your comments, so do forgive me if I skip one or two out. But I always try to get a comment in from everyone that's on the chat. And thank you for putting in the comments. You keep me on my toes, and I can see I'm nearly half an hour behind already, and I've barely started the show. Anyway, Schmigel, if we're a good defensive team, then I wouldn't mind us sitting back, but clearly it's not working. We're not Atletico Madrid. They can get away with it because of the quality that they have. And I agree with that. And the irony is that Moyes prides himself on defensive duties, and yet our defending has been absolutely abysmal. Debbie and Mark, good evening to you. I hope you're well. I think Callum Marshall needs a chance in the first team, scoring for fun, hitting hat-tricks galore in under-21 footy. Think he'd be worth a shot considering the lack of form from Ings and Antonio. And that is a good segue into going into this. So let's talk about the development squad, shall we? Let's start off with the under-18s because they suffered a rare defeat. The under-18s were beaten 2-0 by West Bromwich Albion on Saturday. Despite West Ham having had several opportunities to score, they were confronted by a resilient West Brom who were comfortable with the ball and defended really well. Unusual for under-18s to lose a game. The two West Brom goals came from errors, but an assistant coach, Loris Coggin, talked about we need to learn from that and they'll come back strong again. We're now fourth place. We're fourth place in Premier League, in the under-18s Premier League, 5 points behind league leaders Fulham. But we're back in action again as we play the third place Chelsea this coming Saturday. So hopefully a win against our London rivals, that would leapfrog them into third place. So bit of a blip, but never mind, because the under-21s are absolutely hitting form at the moment. After two successive draws for the under-21s, we were back to winning ways at the weekend on Friday night when we beat Middlesbrough 5-0. 20 goals in Premier League already this season in the league itself. 5 more arrived at the Rush Green on Friday in another sensational attacking play. Callum Marshall poked home the first one of the night before the informed forward struck twice in the second half to secure his another Premier League hat-trick. He had three against Leeds United last month as well. Who else scored? Well, George Earthy scored a goal as well. He found the bottom of the corner on the stroke of half time. Lewis Orford, introduced as a second half sub, also found the net with just 3 minutes to go. Marshall could have got a fourth, but he's no good really because he missed a penalty. Look, that victory has put Hammers in third place in Premier League 2, leapfrogging the team that they beat, Middlesbrough. So fantastic and well done to them. Steve Potts, absolutely correctly, has been singing the praises of the under-21s. You know, he's talked about how resolute they've become in defending. They said it was as important to get a clean sheet as it was to score the goals that they did. And he was full of praise for goalkeeper Jacob Knightbridge, who helped to ensure that we kept a clean sheet. Obviously, he spoke about Callum Marshall, and he said about him, what gets me is how hard he works for it. He just wants to find and win the ball, and he does so much for the team as well as scoring goals. That can never be underestimated because as he goes up the level, it becomes harder to get the goals. But even if he doesn't get goals, he brings a lot and can set the tone for the team. So big praise indeed by the manager there. The under-21s are back in action again this coming Tuesday, tomorrow night, where they face Newport County away in the EFL Trophy. They started well, the under-21s, in that campaign with an impressive 3-1 win over Bristol Rovers last time out in the competition in September. And West Ham will reach the knockout stages for the first time since 2020-21 season, should they take all 3 points from their travels. So good luck to them. A couple of players out on loan, and it's been good for players on loan this week, in the past weekend. 4 West Ham United players were in action across a busy weekend of football. Flynn Downs played a starring role for Southampton as they beat Birmingham City 3-1 in the Championship. The midfielder was at the heart of the Southampton winning performance against Wayne Rooney's Blues, where the South Coast side collecting another win in a rich vein of form. Downs was voted player of the match by Southampton supporters for his excellent showing. A performance that saw the 24-year-old play 129 passes with 97% pass success rate. 129 passes in the Championship with a 97% pass success rate. We need a player that can pass the ball, don't we? Look, I won't lie to you. I know a lot of people don't think much of Flynn Downs, but I thought it was disappointing that, look, the boy wanted game time, so he was sent out on loan. I think, interestingly, for me, when Alvarez needs a bit of a breather, last 10 minutes, etc., we don't have anyone similar to him. I think Flynn Downs is a defensive midfielder. He's just the sort of player that we could bring on in our games to sort of step in and give Alvarez a bit of a respite. And that passing, all right, he wasn't great last season, but it was his first season in the Premier League, and I think for a young player, I think he did okay. So good on him for actually doing really well out on loan at Southampton. Another player who was declared man of the match at the weekend, another player out on loan, is Nathan Trott, goalkeeper Nathan Trott with Vejle BK, who beat Viborg in the Danish Super League. So he didn't beat them. They drew with Viborg in the Danish Super League 1-1. Viborg, the team that we played in the Europa Conference last season, of course. Starting in goal against the side, West Ham beating the Europa Conference League playoffs. Trott watched on as his team took the lead in the first half. Shotstopper was forced into a string of saves to keep Vejle ahead. And the 24-year-old keeper was only beaten finally after a mistake in the Vejle backline. So well done to Nathan Trott, because you kind of start to forget players out on loan and how they're doing. So I'm pleased he's done well as well. Freddie Potts is also out on loan, and he helped Wickham to earn a 2-2 draw away against Oxford United at the weekend as well. It was the hosts managed by former academy football coach Liam Manning who took the lead, but a frantic second half saw 3 penalties awarded and all scored. Wickham thought that they won the game 2-1, but Oxford were awarded a penalty deep into added time, and they drew 2-2. And finally, Archie Woods was a second half sub for Dartford in a 2-1 defeat against Hemel Hempstead. The 20-year-old was introduced on 65 minutes with a score at 1-1. Hemel Hempstead went on to win from a penalty on the 70th minute. So look, great to see some of our players out on loan actually getting some decent game time and doing relatively well. I like Downs. I think it was a shame that we let him go out on loan. But anyway, it is what it is. Right. As I'm sure you've already heard, some fixture changes, and boy, oh boy, has everything changed. So, as you all know, we start again. Our November fixtures start against Arsenal at home in the Carabao Cup on Wednesday. And then we visit Brentford on Saturday, bogey team, another bogey team. Then we host Olympiacos at home next Thursday. Now that becomes a bit of a must-win game, doesn't it? And then we host Nottingham Forest at home on Sunday the 12th. And then we're away to Burnley, one of the few away games like out of London that we got throughout November and December. We're away to Burnley on the 25th of November. And then we're away to TSC on the 30th of November as well in the Europa League. And then we're at home on Sunday, the 3rd of December, to Crystal Palace. That game kicks off at 2:00. And that means that because that game's been moved, the Tottenham Hotspur game, we all thought it was going to be moved to the Wednesday, but it's now been moved to the Thursday, the 7th of December, kick off at 8:15. And then we're away to Fulham on the 10th of December with a 2:00 kickoff. And then we host Freiburg in the final group stage game of the Europa League on the 14th of December at 8 p.m. And then we host Wolverhampton Wanderers on Sunday, the 17th of December, a 2:00 kickoff. And then we host Man United on the 23rd of December, a 12:30 kickoff. And then, of course, our final game of the calendar year, we're away to Arsenal on the 28th of December, 8:15 kickoff. Now, if you look at the games, overall, one would say they're kind of kind to us because we don't have to travel far. There's only a couple of games there that we've got to travel quite far. So we've got Arsenal at home. We're away at Brentford, Olympiacos at home, Forest at home. All right, Burnley and TSC are the 2 games we're going to have to travel some distance for. But then we got Palace at home. We've got away to Spurs. We're away to Fulham, all London games. Home to Freiburg, home to Wolves, home to Man United, and then away to Arsenal. not a lot to travel. So the players should be fit and ready to go, shouldn't they? But a lot of changes. Thanks, TV, for making all those changes. Right. The next bit of the show is going to be all about David Moyes and all about some of the managers that could potentially be replacements if the rumours are to be believed that he is potentially on his way out. So I'm going to get your comments in, then I'm going to go into a bit more about David Moyes. Hammer it. Mubama to start against Arsenal, have a brilliant performance and get a shot in the Premier League in the next few games. Then we see if he's ready. I don't think he will start, but I'm hoping to see. Well, actually, do you know what? I'll do that now because here's the lineup here's the lineup. Not all these players, of course, but I think there's going to be some interesting choices to the lineup against Arsenal on Wednesday. I think Fabianski will play and go. I think Kera, Mavropanos will definitely play. Then it's a conversation about left back. Should it be Creswell, who I actually thought did pretty well against Everton, considering he hasn't played for quite some time, or will he bring Emerson back? You know, if he's got one mind on the game on the weekend against Brentford, I would hazard a guess that he might play either Ben Johnson or Aaron Creswell. And I think maybe Creswell might get the nod. And then the big question is who will be alongside Mavropanos. I think I love him. Ogbonna. I think he's been a stalwart for West Ham United, but I'm not so sure that the Mavropanos-Ogbonna duo kind of works. So I'm wondering perhaps whether he might put a Gerd in alongside Mavropanos. And then because he's going to be missing the game against Brentford, I think Alvarez will start. Fornals didn't have a great game, but I think Fornals will be given another opportunity. And again, Paqueta, he's going to be missing the game against Brentford. So I think he will definitely start. And then probably Kudus and Benrahma, who again didn't have a great game last week either against Olympiacos. But I think maybe Benrahma will be given another opportunity. And then up front, I think all of us would love for Mubama to start. But my gut tells me that it's going to be Danny Ings leading the line. Will that team be enough to beat Arsenal? I don't know. I mean, you're going to have players on the bench like Antonio, Bowen, Ward-Prowse, Souček, etc. Would you bring any of them? I mean, there's the theory. Let's play our strongest team. But if we play our strongest team and we get injuries, what happens on against Brentford? I think Paqueta and Alvarez definitely will start. I think Fabianski definitely will start. Mavropanos and Kera definitely start. Maybe could you have Bone instead of Kudus? I don't know. Could you have Fornals, or would you play Benrahma? But I think on the whole, that's looking like the team. So I'm going with Fabianski, Kera, Mavropanos, Agurd, Creswell, Alvarez, Fornals, Kudus, Paqueta, Benrahma, and Danny Ings up front is who I think is going to play on Wednesday night. As for the Arsenal team, I don't know. I don't care. You know, if Declan Rice plays, would you cheer him? Would you boo him? I don't know. I don't care anymore. He's not a West Ham player, so it doesn't bother me. I've got a feeling he'll come out and be quite worried about playing at West Ham, because of what the reception he may or may not get. I don't know. So I think we just got to worry about ourselves. We've got to worry about the team we put out, and we've got to, try and get a result, because we could win this competition. We get past Arsenal. Who's to say we can't win it? Right. Comments and then go in about David Moyes. Justin, Moyes is anachronistic, too conservative, and makes no attempt to retain possession, naive and unsuitable for Premier League. Here's the interesting thing, though. I was gonna bring up in a moment where the games that we've had least possession, we've won. And then in the last 3 games where we've lost pretty badly, we've had a lot of possession and we've lost. It's just because we don't seem to know what to do with the ball when we go forward into the final third. Andy, Augustel players were playing on the back of the Conference Cup win. September cracks started to appear in the Premier League. October cracks have widened enough for Moyes, large enough ego to fall through. Ballon d'Or, Sonny Perkins smashing it at Oxford. What are Oxford? League One? Good luck to him. But he wasn't smashing it at Leeds in the Championship. So, I don't know. Sai again, Moyes out on your other thing. Yep. John, if a player doesn't want to sign, piss them off, we don't need them. I want Mubama to sign. I want Mubama to sign. I think he'll be a good player for us. He is one of the future players that I think will do well at West Ham United. I really do. Usual. Flynn played a blinder for Southampton on Saturday. Yes, commented on that. John, how would we know if Mubama is or isn't ready still? We haven't seen him play. I agree. I totally agree, John. This is why I'm saying I think the mistake that Moyes is making is not giving the young player a little bit of game time, even if it is 5-10 minutes here and there. Ease him in and then say, right, if you've done well, mate, you put effort in, we'll give you 15 minutes and maybe we'll give you a half or whatever. I don't disagree with you. I think, we won't know if we don't give him game time. Adam, Mubama needs to be on the bench instead of Ings on Sunday. He should have come on, but wasn't even on the bench. Needs to get more minutes to gain experience. It's a no-brainer. Rani, in my opinion, of all the youngsters that have moved on, the only one that could do a job for us now is Cullen, and he would be a squad player. Don't know what others think. I was never convinced about Cullen, to be quite honest with you. He did really, really well for Burnley in the Championship, but it hasn't not really doing that great in the Premier League at the moment with them. I think I liked him, but I wasn't really 100% sure about him. Epic. Moyes is desperate to make Ings work because Ings was his signing. It's not working, and I don't think it will ever work, unfortunately. Love to think that it would, but it's not going to, is it? Daniel, good evening to you. Regular starter. He doesn't even get a sniff in losing a game against Villa. Moyes isn't interested in building anything. Philip, the opposition must have had nightmares when they see our striker Antonio and Ings. It's been a problem for longer than I care to remember, the striker situation. I don't get it. I don't get why we haven't been able to sign a striker that can bloody well play the Moyes way. I said it last season when we signed Scamacca. It didn't feel like the right kind of signing. It just didn't feel like he was going to be the sort of player that was going to thrive under Moyes. And I hoped, and I think we all hoped, and we were desperate for it to work out, and it just didn't. James, you have to question so-called fans who make excuses for victories about as supportive as a pair of spaghetti braces in it. Look, everyone's got an opinion, but there you go. But all be happy. Andy, Mipo, I think his name was Mipo Adebeko. Well, another player. I mean, I remember if you go back a couple of years, Mipo Adebeko signed for West Ham United from Man United. Adebeko, do you remember the game? It was the cup game against Man United. When Adebeko came on as a sub, played, we went into extra time. Adebeko was taken off in extra time. Absolutely killed the player's confidence. But I think Moyes has things like that in his head, and he kind of goes, "Oh, right, I tried to use a youngster a few years ago, so I better not do that again." I feel like he kind of, sort of tries to, doesn't forget, that some players will thrive under conditions, young players, and other players won't. Adebeko looked like a rabbit in the headlights. I remember that game quite vividly. He looked like a rabbit in the headlights. He didn't look comfortable, and he was taken off. Would Mubama have the same? I don't think so. I think Mubama will thrive on going on and trying to play against the likes of Man United, etc. I think Mubama will get game time on Wednesday. Pigads, if Antonio got injured, Mubama will get a chance. That's quite probable. That's quite probable. Ian, no, mate. 1-0 to West Ham United. Bees knees. Good evening to you. Hi, Stel. Moyes still failing to get in young players in the team. Still very slow on pace. Yeah, we've been talking about Mubama, etc. Bill, bringing a player on for 5 minutes will not change a game. I'm not suggesting it would. It's more about getting, a bit of game time rather than trying to change a game. Because I think I'm with Hammer on this. I don't think Mubama is ready yet to sort of play a full role. And I know that sounds a little bit weird, but getting him on and giving him a bit, 10 minutes, etc., 5-10 minutes, just to give him a flavour of what it's all about. It may help in defence, not in attack. Surely that's where you give youth game time. Yeah, you're probably right. John, we don't know what Mubama brings. We do know he can't bring any less than Ings because Ings brings nothing and Moyes plays him. No goals in 19 games. It's a joke. Yeah, good point. I agree. Anthony, Epic you're wrong. That was Sullivan's panic buy, not Moyes. Ings, I think it was a Sullivan purchase. Yeah, to be honest. Paul, you will never know if you're ready if you don't play them. Game over when Ings comes on. Ian, I think Moyes might play I think Moyes might play against Arsenal. Well, he got his boots on. Philip, Ings well known for being the joker in the dressing room and the joke on the pitch. Si, another fast from ticket office re Arsenal. What's happened, mate? Message me and tell me what's happened. Robin, Moyes said in an interview, I think it was pre-season, that Mubama would get plenty of minutes this season. Moyes has lied yet again. Moyes is always talking rubbish and untruths. It is a shame. I don't get it. I think I'm with you all. I think Mubama should be getting more game time. Hammer it. I think that was the quietest the ground has been in a very long time on Sunday. Get Paqueta trying to jeer the crowd up, but we need something to get excited about. For once, I didn't lose my voice. It was quiet. It was pretty quiet. Schmiegel. Moyes' ball relies on sitting back, winning set pieces, and relying on individual brilliance to score goals. Moyes got Moyes against Everton. He did. His own tactics against him. As we had one up front while they had 10 men behind the ball. Yeah, I agree with you. That's why we couldn't find a way through. Wolf, good evening to you. The average life expectancy for a man is 79 years old, so we don't need to worry about Moyes for too long and don't need to be horrible and wish him dead. You know what? He's only about a year older or younger than me, mate. So, Barry, if Moyes picks Ings tomorrow, he has lost the plot. I'm hoping he doesn't. I look at that team and I just keep thinking to myself, he might play Ings. I'd love for Mubama to be picked. That would be a big statement of intent to the young lad and may, encourage him to sign that new contract as well. Ian Smith, Ings would hit a barn door if he had service, and wouldn't hit a barn door. He has a service and a partner. Let's scroll down. Usual. If West Ham put the same performance in as they did Sunday, Arsenal can play the women's team and we will get turned over. I don't disagree with that. The Irons Lady, good evening to you. 4 or more loss against the Gooners and Moyes is gone. Crowd will turn against the old git. Well, they turned against him on Sunday. Booed for the first time this season, or for the first time in a long time at home. I can't remember when it was last season that he got booed, but the fans booed when the game was over on Sunday. John, I don't think Moyes ever coaches any attack plays in possession. I think it's all about shape and coaching, attacks on the breaks, and that's it. You're probably right, which is probably why we will probably go back to what Moyes knows best, and that is to concede possession and try and hit a team on the break. I think that's where he's heading. Delton, hi, Stelios. The squad is unbalanced according to how Moyes wants to play. Got it. Store up the midfield discipline and read the riot act to central defence because they're not good partnership and no organisation. Don't disagree with that. We have looked a little bit unbalanced. Ian, Ings only plays well when there's 2 strikers. We know that. It worked in Australia with Mubama, but Moyes is stubborn and it stinks. That's a good point. We know that. We know that. Mark, middle 3, Alvarez, Paqueta, Kudus. Give Cornet a run on the wings. I'd like to see a bit more of Cornet again as well. Actually, you know what? It's quite possible. Is it quite possible that Cornet may start up front at the weekend? On Wednesday night. It's very possible that Cornet could lead the line on Wednesday. Why not? I don't want to say anything is better than Ings, but Cornet deserves a chance. Mubama deserves a chance. We know Antonio is going to be rested for Brentford. We know that. So then why not give Cornet an opportunity up front? That might work. He's got pace. He's just got to stay on side. Ian, what are the team talks about? Love to be a fly on the wall. Wouldn't we all? I would love to have a microphone in there so I can say, I heard in my shows. Wolf, they said 6 wins because we have Olympiacos at home for the 6th game. Well, I'm going to come on to that in a minute, mate, because it ain't 6 from the 3 that have already been played, 6 defeats, but I'll come on to that in a moment. Kevin, be nice to get new owners so we don't have to keep selling our best players. Well, get used to it, new owners or not, because Steinen is all about getting players in, building them up, selling them at a profit. That's Steinen's approach. So we're going to have to... I don't mind selling players if we sell them for a profit, and I don't mind selling players so long as we get replacement players in. It's when we don't get replacements in, Kevin, that can be the problem. Fred, can't see Moyes getting sacked until we're in relegation battle. Some more exciting times to come. Good grief. You might actually be right there. Mandy, good evening to you. Just get Moyes out, please. When we win, it's crap. And when we lose, it's crap. When we win, it's never crap. Even if we scrape a win, which I'm kind of thinking is going to happen on Wednesday against Arsenal. Oh, man, if we let this season slip away, i.e. the league and European football, then it's another rebuild as our top players are going to go. Is it Moyes gone in January? That's a good point. That's a good point, because if we're out of Europe and we're not high enough in the league to get into Europe again next season, we will see a number of players wanting to go and play European football and league football for another club. You're not wrong. Let's scroll down. Ronnie, what best players do we have to keep selling, Kevin? Usually we struggle to offload players we don't want. It's actually quite novel for recent seasons to have actual assets someone's willing to pay for. We do have assets now, and that's going to be the way forward under Steiden as well. Let's scroll down. John, in early games, Alvarez sat deep as central defensive midfielder. JWP higher up with freer roles. Now he plays JWP deep with Alvarez as second because he's worried. He's worried. Because we're conceding goals, he thinks that's the way to go. That is wrong, because I've heard people, giving JWP a bit of a stick. But unfortunately, let's give credit where credit's due, and let's give criticism where criticism is due. It's a mistake for David Moyes to play Ward-Prowse so deep. Stephen, managers are sacked for the decisions they make. Moyes knows that, and hopefully he knows what to do. First, he has got to get the team back. It won't be easy. Absolutely agree. Andy, James Bond, I've just realised you're in a minority of one here and a closet. Come on. Be good, be nice. He's got a different opinion to you, but please don't call him out. That's insulting, calling him a spud. Sorry about that, James. Mark, Moyes is gone in January or the summer. Steiden is in. Books balance after Rice sell. Players and Moyes out of contract. Ideas for a new manager. Coming to that in a moment. Let's scroll down and try and catch up, because I'm still about half an hour behind. Let's get a few people in that haven't commented yet. Good evening to you, Lewis. After the Villa game, Moyes said how great Villa are. He did. And I criticised him for doing that as well. And that we're still building. That was my show last Monday night. I said after £400 million and nearly 4 years, how come we're still building a squad? So do go and watch that from last Monday night show. But despite him being here 4 years, spending close to 400 million, and Emery being at Villa only 12 months, says it all. Now, I was corrected last week because I was told, let's not forget that most of the players that Villa have got weren't bought by Emery. But what Emery has done is he's got them playing. He's got them playing well. Delton, Alonso is my choice if possible. I saw his training session. Brilliant. That's why his team plays so positively. I'm going to come on to that. Bear with me. I'm nearly there. Just trying to catch up with the comments. Dean, good evening to you, mate. I simply don't understand Moyes' obsession with playing people out of position. It makes no sense and hampers the team progress. I agree with that. James, these whining numpties were on their knees, taking their false teeth out and waiting further instructions from Moyes not to go so long ago. Bickle, yeah, everyone's got an opinion. Don't forget, be nice to each other in the chat. Lord Patrick, good evening to you. Playing the Beach Boys, God only knows, is Moyes on his way. God only knows, mate. Bill, Emery sold Ings as soon as he got in, as he knew he didn't suit his tactics. That's very true. Moyes buys him using basically the same tactics. Well, it was a panic buy and it was a David Sullivan buy, unfortunately. Mark, there's very clear issue with Moyes' halftime instructions. Our opponents came out with a clear plan and we have none. This cannot be allowed to continue. Well, here's another thing that I've got to criticise him on. In the game on Thursday at Olympiacos, we were saying at halftime, he's going to change it. He's got to change it. He's got no choice but to change it. And then we were sort of like, wait, halftime was happening, etc. And then we were looking on the pitch and we saw all the players that were subs all warming up. And I thought to myself, hang on a minute, not one of the subs is in the changing room, in the dressing room, listening to instructions on what to do in the second half. And it dawned on me, he's not going to make any changes at half time. And it was like, how could he possibly not have made any changes at half time in the Olympiacos game? I was a little bit like, wow, and then what was it? 10 minutes into the second half before he finally made changes. It was awful. That, again, I've got to criticize him. It was awful. Henry, anyone selling tickets for Wednesday, message me. Not me, but I might know one or two people that might have a spare. at westhamvoice@gmail.com. Anthony, you lot that want Moyes out and a new manager in, just take a look at Chelsea and Poch not going well. Will he be sacked by January? Interesting point. That's not going very well either, is it? Big responsibility. It's a big responsibility to be manager anywhere. But you're absolutely right, Anthony. It's Chelsea should be doing extraordinarily well with the likes of Pochettino that many of us wanted. Even I, at one time, would have liked Pochettino to come into West Ham United. David, how many sons does he have that are playing football for Raiders Club? I don't know the answer to that. I know about Freddie, but I don't know the answer to the other ones, I'm afraid. Good evening, Rupert. I hope you're well. Nice for the chat. Yeah, it was indeed, and good to see you. The game on Wednesday, we've got no hope. Of course we have. Always got hope. Always. That's the beauty of football. We don't know what's going to happen. Even if Arse White's put out the women's side, someone said that already. I'll see you Saturday, by the way. John, send them out on loan. Send them to Moyes. We need some new players. Yeah, see you Saturday, mate. Definitely. Hang the traitors. Good evening to you. Shocking game on Sunday. It was shocking, as was the game on Thursday, as was the game last Sunday. I worked out because I got this comment when I did my, I'm going to say it, when I did my review of the game against Everton on Sunday, and I kind of I'm still not sort of banging that Moyes out, drum just yet. I'm still a bit Moyes neutral, but I'm teetering on, I do realise that maybe his time is up. And I got someone who commented on the video and said, if you're not Moyes out, then you don't know, you still don't want what's best for West Ham United. And I got really offended by that because I've just travelled in the last 8 days, 1,600 miles going from here to Villa, from here to Athens, and then from here to Stratford, to watch West Ham United. 3 games in 8 days. And then for someone to turn around and say, just because you don't want Moyes out or you're not advocating Moyes out, you don't want to know you don't want what's best for West Ham United. That was a bit insulting. We all want what's best for West Ham United. We all see things in different ways. There's a big, like it was last season, there's a big push from a lot of fans saying that they want him to go. But not everybody is saying they want him to go. I think there's an awful lot of fans that are absolutely frustrated. But I think there are fans that think that possibly he'll turn it round, just like he did last season. Will it be as good? Will we win a trophy? That bit I don't know. Adam, we're still 3 to 5 players short of a good team. I agree. And most importantly, a striker. Agreed. Would be better as backup, as Antonio is not good enough for us. He's lost his pace. We need a new defender as well. I think we need a right back. I think we need an alternative to Alvarez, to give him a bit of respite in the centre of midfield as well. Wolf, I think we should go strong versus Arsenal. No more throwing away games. But again, what's strong? You look at that lineup, how many of those players would you turn around and say are not strong? All right, Fornals and Benrahma haven't had good games of late. But if you pick Fabianski, many would do. Many people still think Fabianski should be our number 1 keeper. Kehrer at right back, Soufal, Kehrer. Who would you prefer? Would you play Soufal? What if he got injured? Mavropanos, I think, he had a very, very bad game against Olympiacos, but I actually rate him. I want to see a bit more of him. I think he will put a Gerd alongside Mavropanos. And then would you put Emerson and risk having him injured, or would you put Creswell? Question mark over that. Alvarez, Fornals, Paqueta, Kudus, Benrahma, and then someone up front, whether it be Mubama, Ings, or someone else who's now Cornet. Now, for me, I'm looking at that, and the only area I'd be concerned about would be up front. Antonio won't start because he'll probably be rested for Saturday's game. Ings, we kind of know, can't do it. Mubama, would you put him in? Would you start him? I don't know. Or would you put Cornet in? But on the whole, that team isn't that bad, is it, really? But you tell me. Iron, good evening to you. I don't think Mubama will sign until Moyes goes, or someone in the know of the TS plan tells him Moyes will not be given a new contract. I don't think Moyes will be here next season anyway, to be honest with you. In my humble opinion, David, we're going to get humped on Wednesday. In my humble opinion, you don't know. Oliver, Late to the party, guessing we're all commiserating in the kitchen. Good evening to you, Oliver. Thanks for joining, mate. It's not been pleasant, but people have been quite polite, which is good. Mandy, apart from someone being called a spud. We don't know what to do with the ball. Well, we don't when we come to the last third of the pitch, to be quite honest with you. How far behind am I? I'm catching up. So do forgive me if I miss a few of your comments. Adam, Oggy has lost it at age. He, has caught up, age has caught up with him, and Mavropanos should be starting, and we need pace as we still haven't got it. Still, what about then Cornet? He's got pace, so long as he can stay on side. Ballon, fun fact, I found out last week Dan Potts lives on my road. There you go. Go knock on his door and ask him how many brothers he's got. Hammeret, 50 strikers have joined us since the Russian Midge has been in charge, and Antonio is our record holder. The irony. E. Davis, Scamacca had two goals and an assist today. Could have got 5. Italian league, different. Oliver, the biggest problem. Let's not worry about who was here. Oliver, the biggest problem with stickers is that they don't get enough service in the final third. Every time we go forward on Sunday, it just fell apart. No one is coaching them how to attack. I don't disagree with that. You know, if only, but I think he's, I think he's an Arsenal fan. I think there'll be several teams in a better position than us that might be looking at Tony if Brentford are looking to sell him. Let's scroll down. David Granger, good evening to you. Defoe was young and proved himself. Why not give him a go? Absolutely, I don't disagree with that. Good evening to you, West Ham Massive. Thank you for joining. Rani again. Fred. It's your birthday. Happy birthday, Hammerette. If you're going to the game on the Arsenal game, let me know. If you're going anywhere for a drink, I'll go and buy you a drink for your birthday. Fred, we had the best youngsters in the country last season. Moyes won't go near any of them. Well, with all those youngsters that you're alluding to, the under-18s, most of them now playing for the under-21s. Let them cut their teeth there first, like Callum Marshall is doing. Let them prove themselves, and then we'll look at bringing them in. Sometimes you can't just dump them all in the first team. You've got to give them that opportunity to take that next step up, which they've done. I think 7 or 8 of them who won the under-18s league last season and the youth trophy, the FA youth trophy, have moved up into the under-21s now. Some of them are doing exceptionally well, like Callum Marshall. And let's see now, after they've had that season, what happens there on in. Like I said a moment ago, I really don't know. Not tomorrow, Keith. Wednesday, I meant. I think, like I said earlier on, I don't think Moyes will be here next season, regardless. If he's not sacked, I don't think West Ham United are going to renew his contract. If he is sacked, then of course he's gone, isn't he? So I think these youngsters will get the game time that they deserve if they're good enough. Rani, we need to find a striker in the Beto mold. Not saying he's great, but he's the kind of player that fits the Antonio role. Yeah, possibly. Neil, you say about giving youngsters a go. I do, but I know what everyone thinks. I know Moyes won't do that. Let's scroll down. Beats, good evening to you. I'm sure Cornet was Burnley's best player, and that was a Daesh team. Thought he would have been decent under Moyes. He's just had a series of injuries. All of last season, virtually, he was out injured. But I would like to see a bit more of Cornet. He's got pace. He's one of the few players that's got pace. And he did. You're absolutely right. He played really well under Daesh at Burnley, and he was their top goal scorer before they got relegated. Adam, we should have never bought Zuma. Too slow, injury prone. Mavropanos should be playing, and defence needs a whole reworking. We need pace as Benny and Fornals aren't quick. Well, Benny is not quick, but he should be doing better than what he has been doing, to be honest with you. Let's scroll down. Everyone is saying happy birthday to you, Hammerette. West Ham massive. Moyes is stifling young talent. Longelo. Well, let's be careful here. Longelo is gone to Birmingham. I don't know how he's doing. Alese, I liked Alese. Baptiste, absolutely, I agree with that. He's signed for Man City. Perkins, no. Mubama, I agree. Mubama needs to be looked after. Scarles is still, I don't know if Scarles has moved up to the under-21s or not. I'm not sure. And Marshall wise up and go off down the cut. Well, I think Marshall is the next one, isn't he? I think Marshall is likely to be is likely to be one of the players that will make it. Mubama first, though. James, Stell being called a spud feels quite complimentary when it's from a constant. David, Julie, how are you? We missed you yesterday. Where were you? I hope you're well. David, I'm a Moyes fan. When he took over, we was a shamble who got booted out and then took over again after Pellegrini had shot his bolt and spunked all the money. Just my opinion. I agree with you. That's why I've kind of, for me, I've been a little bit sort of like, I don't want to sort of shout for Moyes out. Certainly last season I didn't. This season, any more defeats that we've had, like the last three, I think maybe will be a little bit frustrating. But I agree. One thing that David Moyes has done, whether you like it or not, he's stabilized us. We were a club that was sort of like constantly looking at sort of relegation battles, etc. And I know before you say it, I know last season was a relegation battle, but in general, we were a club that going nowhere. Moyes came in, he stabilized, then he got booted out. Pellegrini came in and he did spunk a lot of money. And then Moyes came back and stabilized us again. Sometimes, though, a player or a manager sometimes might stay a little bit longer than he should. And maybe it's getting to the point now, David, where Moyes is kind of like his tenure should be. Personally, I think all this 6-game rule, etc., I think is a lot of rubbish. But I think Moyes won't be here next season. If he survives any sacking over the next couple of months, I don't think West Ham United will keep him next season. Hamret, how can so many players suddenly drop drastically in form since the last break, even in out of favour positions? How can it have got so bad? Well, you tell me. It's very, very weird how so many players are falling out of form. Is it the training? Is it the way they're being trained? I don't know, but it is quite worrying. It's quite weird. Victor, why does Moyes have a phobia about playing two strikers? Even when we're chasing the game, he still only plays one. I agree with you. It is frustrating. It is another frustration that people can't get over. I totally agree. I'm going to try and catch up. Rani, how many clubs have academies these days that actually produce top-class players? Not many. City used to be a graveyard for young talent. To be fair, they're in the minority. And I did say, I don't know how long ago it was, I did say the number of players in Premier League academies that end up becoming Premier League players, regular Premier League players, is something like 4%. It's a very, very low percentage rate. So you're absolutely right. It's not just West Ham. I know a lot of people, and I've said this many times before, a lot of people keep talking about David Moyes, not nurturing talent, not nurturing youth, etc. He's not the only one. Everybody does it. Most Premier League teams do it. Wolf has to be Mubama, but he needs easier games as well, like game time against lower opposition in the league and a bit of time in Europe. See, everyone's got a different view. I thought he should be played, 5 minutes here, 5 minutes there, build up his time, etc. But you're right, that's another way of doing it. Maybe against the likes of Sheffield, he should have got a bit of game time, and stuff like that. Let's scroll down. What else have we got? Am I catching up? Almost. Ryan, good evening to you. I fell into an upholstery machine last week, but I'm now fully. Good evening, Mickey. I hope you're well. Ralph, was it Hammers Mikey called Moyes a football terrorist? Brilliant analogy. Stephen Moore, Callum Marshall is good enough to get a run for the Northern Ireland team as a full international. Doesn't even get near our bench. It's a good shout. Can't deny that. Funky T. I'm neither Moyes in or out, but he is the best thing that's happened to West Ham in the last decade. Have a look at the stats and tell me I'm wrong. You're not wrong. And this is I guess the irony of it all, that he is our most successful Premier League manager. He has brought us success. Like it or not, he has. But at the same time, people don't like his style. And I get that and I understand that. And with that, let's go into Moyes, shall we? And talk a little bit more about him. As you've already heard, the news is that the board are apparently becoming frustrated with David Moyes, or more specifically, David Sullivan is becoming more frustrated with Moyes, especially after the recent defeats against Villa, Olympiacos, and Everton. And now, apparently, according to reports, West Ham United are beginning to start considering life without David Moyes. Now, as I said at the weekend, I didn't think the board would make a knee-jerk decision about Moyes. and his future. Now, I received confirmation earlier on. You've seen it all in the, the stories, etc. I received confirmation earlier on that there is this 6-game rule coming. Now, it isn't 6 games, including the 3 defeats that we've just had. I've been told if in the next 6 games, starting from Arsenal on Wednesday, if David Moyes loses all 6, then he's very likely to be sacked. However, it's quite possible that will be 9 defeats in a row. That will be unprecedented in all competitions. 9 defeats in a row would be unprecedented. However, I was also told that it's quite possible that the board may not wait the whole 6 games. So I think what's going to happen is I think if you look at the games that we've got coming up, so the next 6 crucial fixtures, Arsenal, Brentford, Olympiacos. You look at those 3, and many people are saying, don't think we're going to win against Arsenal. We've got a bogey team against Brentford, and then the home game against Olympiacos is going to be tough, especially after their victory last week, and they're going to fancy it. So let's say, for argument's sake, we lose all those 3, then by rights, the next 3 are going to should be on paper easier games. Nottingham Forest at home, away to Burnley, and then away to TSC. They should be the easier games. So can you actually see us losing all 6 of those games? Even if we lost against Arsenal, Brentford, and Olympiacos, one has to say that surely against Forest, Burnley, and TSC, we're not going to lose those 3 as well. But as I said, I think what's going to happen is, from my understanding of what I was told earlier today, is if we lose badly against Arsenal, if we lose badly against Brentford, and we don't do very well against Olympiacos, that could be the nub that will make Sullivan go, all right, enough's enough. We need to let the manager go. I think not only are the results going to be important, I think the performances are going to be as important as the results. So bear with me. If we lose against Arsenal, we lose against bogey team Brentford, and then if we have a really bad game, let's say for argument's sake, we lose against Arsenal, we lose against Brentford. If we have a really bad game against Olympiacos, but we scrape through, that might still trigger the board to turn around and say, we need to move on from David Moyes. It might do. If, for argument's sake, we lose against Arsenal, we lose against Brentford, we kind of get scraped by against Olympiacos, we scrape by against Nottingham Forest and Burnley, the performances in those games are going to be as important as the results. So there's a possibility that we could look at the potential sacking of David Moyes if he doesn't do well in the next few games. Look, it's really quite intriguing, because I said earlier on in the show that at the beginning of the season we weren't getting a lot of the ball, and people were complaining about not having possession, etc. And yet we were winning games. And yet in the last 3 games that we've lost quite heavily, we've had more of the ball. We had something like, I think it was 42% possession against Villa away from home, which is not bad. I think we had something like 55% possession away to Olympiacos, and we lost. And then we had something like 60-odd% possession against Everton, and we lost. I think what David Moyes is going to do is going to put away this whole creativity stuff, and he's going to go back to basics. He's going to go back to saying, you have the ball. And we might see this starting on Wednesday. You have the ball, opposition. We'll sit back and we'll hit you on the break, because that's what we do best. And I kind of feel that that's the way Moyes is going to go, starting with Arsenal on Wednesday. Because the lack of creativity is abundant to see. We've got footballers who should be smashing it. Paqueta, Kudus, even Ben Rama, even Fornals, and James Ward-Prowse with his creativity with crosses and free kicks and corners and all that, Bowen, etc. There should be enough there to be hitting teams by a good couple of goals each game. Look, I just think this thing about, losing the next 6 games isn't going to happen. We're going to limp our way through. probably, but limping our way through, as I said, is likely not going to be enough to keep David Moyes in his role. If we change our style of play, if we really start putting in some quality performances, then that might be enough. If all of a sudden Moyes reverts to being attack-minded, etc., then the board might go, okay, well, we've lost 1 or 2 games, but we won this one, etc. I think if our people have alluded to it in the chat, if our style of football starts changing, and looking a bit more attack-minded and trying to go for wins, etc., I think fans will go, you know what? Fair enough. At least we're giving it a go. But can you see that happening? I don't know. Because even though we had 42% possession against Villa, we didn't create anything. Even though we had 56% possession against Olympiacos, we didn't create anything. And even though we had 63% possession against Everton, again, we didn't create anything. We didn't look like a side that knew what to do with the ball in the final third of the pitch. And when it came to the earlier games in the season, when we've been accused of not having enough possession, 23% and 30% and whatever it was, we were scoring more goals in that time. And I remember saying, it doesn't matter how much possession you have, it's what you do with it. And now it's been proven. The last 3 games, we've had more possession. We haven't done anything with the ball. We need to be a little bit more creative. Will that save David Moyes? Yes, if he can change the team into becoming not only possession-based, but also doing something positive with that possession. Will he do it against these next 3 teams that we're going to play against? I think it's going to be backs against the wall against Arsenal. And I actually genuinely think, as mad as I am, that we're going to get a victory. It's going to be a scrape, but we're going to win that game, believe it or not. Ironically, we'll go to Brentford and we might get a draw out of that. I actually don't think we're going to piss around with Olympiacos at home this time round, and I think we'll beat them. Away to Nottingham Forest, we should beat them, and we should beat Burnley. At home to Nottingham Forest, we should beat them, and away to Burnley, it'll be tough, but I think we'll win that as well, and I think we will beat TSC away from home as well. Now, that's confident because of those 6 games, I'm predicting that we're going to have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 wins out of those 6. Now, it could happen that we won't win any of them. Will David Moyes be sacked after the next 6 games? I don't think so, to be quite honest with you. I think we'll get by, we'll scrape through. But like I said, it's not just about the result, it's also about the quality of our play. Moyes is now beginning to feel the pressure to make sure that he's putting out a team that is worthy of beating teams. I was glad to see Kudus play at the weekend. I hope he doesn't change that when it comes to more Premier League games, because I think once Kudus starts getting really relaxed in the team, knowing his role, etc., I think he can really, really hurt teams. And alongside Paqueta and alongside the likes of James Ward-Prowse and Alvarez, etc., etc., what he has to do is quite possibly what we've all been saying is probably drop Antonio. If he wants to play Bowen up front, then put Bowen up front, put Kudus out wide, put Paqueta in the middle, so it's a bit more of a balanced team. Right. But what if Moyes does go? What if it all goes pear-shaped and he does go? What are the managerial options that are out there? Look, an awful lot of managers have been named over the last few days, etc., etc. The big question, I guess, for the board is, what kind of manager do they get in to replace Moyes if he does get sacked? Do the board go for a manager who's got Premier League experience? That immediately conjures up names like Graham Potter, Antonio Conte, Frank Lampard, Julian Lopetegui, Ralph Hasenhüttl, or whatever his name is, or Jesse March. All Premier League experience. We might all have our favourites amongst those, but Potter would have to be kind of in the frame, wouldn't he? Now, he's not for me, to be quite honest with you. He did well at Brighton, but and it's not because he didn't do well at Chelsea that I'm saying he's not for me. I don't think Potter is the right kind of manager for us. Or will the board go for a manager from abroad who's got very little Premier League experience, but maybe have done well in their leagues or in Europe, etc. And then the board could be looking at the likes of, for example, Joachim Low, ex-German manager, Robert Pires, very little experience with Feyenoord, but apparently an up-and-coming coach. Is there indeed are we looking at Oliver Glasner, who was at Eintracht Frankfurt, that navigated their way to winning the Europa League, who beat us in the semi-final? All the above managers that I've named are free agents at the moment. And I guess one of the ones that kind of sticks out is Glasner. Now, I did a little bit of research about him. Why did he leave Eintracht Frankfurt? He's an experienced coach, very highly thought of in the German at the German club. They actually did offer him a contract to stay on. But one of the reasons that was cited was that he didn't think that the contract he was offered was good enough. So he was unhappy about that. But one of the other things that is interesting about him, which apparently made him leave Frankfurt at the end of last season, was his disagreement with the sporting director about the development of the squad. Glasner wanted Marcus Krosch to spend money to improve the squad, whereas Krosch wanted Glasner to be using the youth, bringing youth through and playing them. There were a couple of players, I can't remember their names, young players that were really highly thought of for Eintracht Frankfurt, whereas Glasner didn't want to use it. He wanted to spend money. Now, that all of a sudden makes me start thinking about David Moyes. We criticised Moyes about not using youth at West Ham United. Would Glasner, experienced manager as he is, be the same? Would he come to West Ham and go, well, I don't want to use the youth. I want you to spend money to build the squad up? It'd be interesting. But he's an interesting one, Glasner. I mean, experienced manager. He won the Europa League, etc. Well respected. But if he's going to come in with the same attitude as David Moyes, what then for the youth? Will we have a German David Moyes in disguise? I don't know. And then there's two potential candidates who are currently in employment. And the first one, and I kind of alluded to it before, is current coach under Moyes, Johnny Heitinger. He played for David Moyes whilst they were both at Everton, and now he's one of Moyes' coaches at West Ham United after having a brief spell last season coaching the first team at Ajax. Heitinger's coaching career is quite limited, to be quite honest with you. It's only been at the Dutch club, where he's really primarily only managed to coach the youth teams, the under-17s, the under-18s, the under-19s. With the under-19s, he guided them to the under-19s Dutch League, as well as Dutch under-19s Dutch Cup winners. But would his inexperience hinder him from taking over? I did suggest that maybe come the end of this season, if Moyes stays the whole season, that maybe Heitinger, learning the ropes under Moyes, might be a pathway for him to sort of take over from Moyes at the end of the season. But I don't know. It could be a gamble. It could be a massive gamble. Look, he did well in his caretaker role at Ajax last season. They finished third in the league under Heitinger. And I guess for a caretaker coach, I guess that's not too bad. But very little experience. But on everybody's lips, of course, is Xabi Alonso. Current favourite by most fans, by a distance, I think, is that this is the manager that West Ham United would like to see. This is the manager that West Ham fans would like to see manage West Ham United in the future. Look, Alonso, he's done incredibly well at Bayern Munich, at Bayer Leverkusen. Many fans have been speculating for some time that with his close relationship to Tim Steidten, Alonso could be the ideal candidate to take over at the club. He started his coaching career as youth coach at Real Madrid, and many others speculating that this will be the place where he will eventually do his coaching. But at 41 years of age, does he want to go to a bigger club as Real Madrid, or does he want to cut his teeth at the likes of Bayer Leverkusen, maybe cut his teeth in the Premier League side like West Ham United? His close relationship with Tim Steidten might suggest that he could be prime to come to the likes of West Ham. After he career coaching the youth squad at Madrid, he then went to the Real Sociedad B team before moving to Bayer Leverkusen on a permanent basis in 2022. Now, he's got a contract until 2026. Surprising him away from Bayer Leverkusen is likely to cost West Ham United quite a bit of serious money, but to reacquaint with Steidten could be tempting. And what better place to demonstrate how good a coach you are than in the Premier League? Look, Alonso led Leverkusen to a respectable sixth place in the Bundesliga last season, and currently they're top of the Bundesliga with 8 wins and a draw, no defeats so far this season, and they're scoring goals for fun as well. Look, it's an interesting one. I think he would be the one that many would want, but there are other options. But they're interesting options and not necessarily the right options. Do I want someone like Potter? I'm not so sure. Look, I've only mentioned, apart from Alonso and Heitinger, who are both in roles at the moment, all the other ones I've mentioned are free agents. You know, there's a lot of managers out there that currently don't have jobs. I'll repeat: Graham Potter, Antonio Conte, Frank Lampard, Julian Lopetegui, Ralph Hasenhüttl, Jesse March, Joachim Low, Robert Pires, Oliver Glasner, all managers who are currently without a club at the moment. But of all the ones, I think it's Alonso that most people will want. But the question, again, as I asked, is Moyes going to be sacked? This 6 games, if you lose 6 games in a row stuff, I think it's possible that we could lose 6 games in a row, but I genuinely can't see it. I think Moyes will scrape through. I think the nature of our wins or defeats are going to be as telling as the results. The next 6 games are going to be really, really crucial, really, really critical, not only for West Ham United as a club and where we are in the league, but also for David Moyes. Let's have a look at them again. Against Arsenal, you tell me. I can see us stupidly scraping a win. Away to Brentford, we might walk away with a point. I think we will beat Olympiacos at home. And then when it comes to Forest, we should beat them at home. We should beat Burnley away. And then going away against TSC, we kind of should win that as well. Right. Let me go into your comments. I'm sure there are many. Let's scroll down. Ian. Stable, yes, you're asking people to pay and watch drab football. I'm not asking them. I pay it. Don't like it, but I do pay it. I was with Wiggy, my mate Wiggy, away at Athens last week, and he didn't stop moaning. I don't want to watch this football, paying all this good money. I'd rather be working, etc. I get it. I totally get it. You know, when we're winning, it's great. When we're losing, it's horrible. Let's scroll down. Hammer it. I'm not Moyes out yet. Had the team have been performing, but Moyes was messing it up, then fair enough. However, the euphoria of winning the trophy is getting marred for me with a dire shite recently. Clive, I had an argument with a pencil. He didn't know what. Boom, boom. By the way, excuse me. If you're new to the channel, please hit the subscribe button. Please hit the like button and the bell notification. And do put your comments into the chat because that's what makes this show. Delton. Football has and still evolving. Mr. Moyes has been left behind. Not sure he can be evolved with time. His tactics are currently being left behind, which is a shame. Iron Ore. Sorry, you do realise you said you don't understand why a striker doesn't want to sign for West Ham after you spoke about Mubama out loud. Did I contradict myself? Probably I did. I usually do that. Andrew, I think the last game showed West Ham's level, their Everton level. I reckon if Moyes stays, West Ham will finish next to Everton, about 15th. Good grief. I hope not. Good evening to you, 1K sessions. All managers have a shelf life, and Moyes for us is past his best. Might disagree with that. Mandy, overcomplicating by focus more on stopping them from scoring over our attacking qualities. That is a disappointment, and it is annoying. Alan, we need a good 7 to 8 goal drubbing from Arsenal to get Moyes out. Bill, if Sullivan is changing his rule of 6, then he's making excuses to keep him until the end of the season. It will not surprise me if we do keep him until the end of the season. It really won't. Hammer it. Clive, what is still drinking? The board won't out Moyes till May. I probably look. You know, like I said, I don't think it will have to be absolutely desperate in the next 6 games, Clive, for the board to sack Moyes. I do actually think he will stay to the end of the season. Mark, nothing less than 3 wins: Olympiacos, Forest, and Burnley. That will save him. Hammer it. Regardless of what X has reported, can you actually see the board sacking Moyes? No, I can't, not unless they had someone else lined up ready to step into his shoes. Let's scroll down. Delton. Still, you're making the same mistake some people make, thinking West Ham should beat certain teams on paper. Don't bank on it, although I hope so. No, I'm not. When I look at those games, I'm kind of speculating. I don't expect us to go out there and just win them automatically. But I kind of like, you would think on paper, many people will say we're going to lose against Arsenal. Many people will say we're going to lose against Brentford. Some would even say we would lose against Olympiacos. But then when it comes to Forest, Burnley, TSC, many would argue that we should be beating those teams, even if we lose our first 3 games. But I get your point. Steve, good evening to you. Leicester let Ranieri go the following season after winning the league, after bad performances, and we after his success. But now more crap performances should do the same and move on. Old man, 6 games starting from now. No, wasn't ready from now. 6 games starting from Wednesday. Alan, how long have we been talking about outing Moyes? It's a joke. He should walk. He must know he is unwanted by the majority of fans. One hell of a stubborn man. Good evening to you, Scott. I hope you're well. Rani, agree with HH. Don't think they've got the manager for the project lined up yet. So if they sack Moyes, they'll have to make a fireman appointment. E. Davis, waste of time, get a new one in, lift the players and press for Europe. Now, well, this is the other thing. It's all also the timing of this, and much the same conversation as was had last season. The timing of this is also important because if we keep Moyes up until the January transfer window, then you can't see him going. And then what happens with transfers? Who will make decisions on transfers if it is Moyes' last season? Now, many would argue you let Moyes go before the transfer window, then you've got a new manager coming in who will be able to do what they believe is right for the club, for the team in the transfer window, bring a few players in, etc., etc. So the next 6 games are going to take us through November, and then we've got December. If those 6 games, like I said, are not great, then maybe the board might just go to get a new manager in before the transfer window opens. We've got to do it in December. But if he gets through and, we got comfortable wins against Olympiacos, against Forest, against Burnley, etc., then I can't see the board making a move. Ryan, Steinen or the board have a replacement lined up. Moyes ain't going nowhere, but who's out there? Well, hopefully, I'd be interested to know what you think of the managers I've mentioned and if any of them take your fancy. Mandy, we're in danger of losing our identity if we keep changing systems. No, I don't agree with that. There are teams that can play different systems. Some 2 or 3 systems in the same game. If you're talking about tactics and formations and stuff like that, I think, unless you're talking about something else, no, I don't think we're in danger of losing our identity. We might get it back, many will say. Let's scroll down. Scott, realistically, we should get a minimum of 12 points out of the next 6 games. That will save him. Lewis, pretty annoyed about the Mubama situation. I would take an upturned bucket with a smiley face drawn on it at the moment. I think Mubama will sign. I really do. I really do think he'll sign. Victor, would you take Gary O'Neill as our next manager? Done a really good job at Bournemouth and doing a really good job at Wolves. And has seen his best players being sold. They really play good attacking football. I don't know. It depends on what you think you want moving forward. Now, many West Ham fans will argue we've gotten to this stage, we've got to be pressing on, getting into the regularly top 6, etc. With the greatest of respect to Gary O'Neill, I don't think he'll be the sort of manager that will get us into the top 6. Schmeichel, and not on a regular basis. Schmeichel, please no to Potter. Really don't think he's that good. I don't disagree with you. Schmeichel again, Glasner is a good shout. But what do you think after what I said about his fallout at Eintracht Frankfurt about wanting to buy players rather than using youth? Is that not the same as Moyes, or is that different? Rani, Potter's team struggled to score goals. Can't see our fan base being happy with that for too long. Totally agree. I don't think it'll be that much different in our style of play if Potter came in, to be quite honest with you. Ryan, if Moyes does go, and I don't think he will, we'll get a manager on a temporary basis. I'm convinced of that. E. Davis, best managers in the league, didn't have Premier League experience. They bring new ideas. Good call. Good call. Old man, you'd want Hasenhüttl Rani, no chance of Alonso, just a pipe dream. Might as well wish for Pep or whoever. No, I know. Don't think. Look, I think a lot of fans want Alonso. I don't necessarily think we will get him. The only thing that links us to him is Steiden. If Steiden can convince him, come to West Ham as a project, who knows? Good evening to you, Black Abbey. I hope you're well, mates. Thank you for joining. James, imagine Bone up top versus Everton. Not a prayer. The land of giants. Kudus plays instead of Antonio. Kudus is shorter than Bowen and Antonio. So if he was up front, he would also be amongst the land of giants as well. Mandy, Potter or Carrick for me? I'm not sure about Carrick. I like him. West Ham and all that stuff, but I'm not so sure. Potter, I don't really think so. Scott, anyone heard of this Heitinger fellow? But don't tell me it's Johnny Heitinger. Yeah. Well, he's at West Ham. Rather Heitinger than Potter. Wait for the Will Still rumours again. Of course, that's all going to come round, isn't it? He's signed a long-term contract. So then maybe that. He has, Vinay. He's one of our first-team coaches. How do you... I'm not making this up because let me just show you. Hang on one second. Where is he? Have I got a photo of him somewhere? Bear with me. There he is. Heitinger in the West Ham kit. He's one of our coaches. Have I got it wrong or have you? I don't know. Alonso is my first choice, says Oliver. I think he is first choice for many people. Thomas, since Heitinger has been appointed, nothing's changed. I'm glad you made me start thinking for a moment that maybe I've got something wrong. Since Heitinger has been appointed, nothing's changed. In fact, it's got worse. Wouldn't have him. Fair play. Victor, since Heitinger has joined, our coach staff has gone backwards. There you go. He's not in favour. Iron ore. We have a great right back, but Moyes is playing him out of position. Antonio, well, I don't put him back as right back. I don't know. Good evening, Dax. You're welcome here. Carpi. Heitinger was a clogger as a player, so we managed the same way. No thanks. There you go. I'd like Marcelo Gallardo if Moyes leaves. Schmeichel, his style of football will get the fans off their feet, off their seats. He's a great man manager skills and uses youth players as well. Andrew, I want an English manager. Well, why and who? Sam Allardyce is available. Carpi, Lopetegui would be good. Got Wolves going in a short period of time. Victor, Scott, maybe he don't buy but why have them if he's not listening to them? I don't know what Scott says, but do forgive me. Got to move on. Schmeichel, fun fact. Gallardo was Brighton's first choice, but he turned them down at the time, so they got De Zerbi instead. Gallardo, interesting call, to be honest with you. Anthony, Paul Ince was at Canary Wharf with Sullivan. Happy Amaret. I met a granddad with his young grandson on the train after his first game. The Toffees match. The poor kid was depressed, bless him. I don't know if you heard my story earlier on. I took a couple of friends asked me, their young boy wanted to go to a football match, first ever football match, and I took him to Everton, West Ham Everton at the weekend as well. I'm not so sure he's going to want to go again either. Delton, I'm hoping Moyes changes his tactics because he wants to leave on a high and say up yours to the fans like Allardyce. I'm hoping he will, but I don't think he will, to be quite honest with you. Peter, Stel, is Areola weak on his right side? No, I think Areola's got stick where it's not been due, to be quite honest with you. I like Areola. I think he's kept us in games, especially earlier on in the season. Is he weak on his right side? No. I think he's a decent keeper. Victor, I think Steiden will be the one to sack Moyes, not Sully. It's down to Sully. Steiden doesn't have that responsibility as far as I'm aware. Kev, if we finish 10th and get to the quarterfinal of Europa Cup, Sullivan will probably give Moyes a new contract, at least another 2 years. I don't think he will. I don't think one way or another, whether it's halfway through the season or whether it's the end of the season, I think one thing that we're sure of is that Moyes ain't staying beyond this season. What he's got to do is win another trophy in order to get us back into Europe to have any chance of getting us of him getting an extended contract. And even then, I don't think it will happen. David, Tim Steidten wouldn't have taken the job unless he was assured he would replace Moyes with his style. That I 100% agree with you. There is something brewing that we're not all aware of just yet. Mark, I doubt you'll be able to get the manager you want mid-season. Moyes out in the summer. That's why I named managers who are currently out of work. You know, if you're going to get a manager mid-season, it's going to be someone that's going to be out of work. But otherwise, I agree with you. It'd be Moyes out in the summertime. 1K sessions. I wonder what Noble will be thinking of team and Moyes. Well, I think he's an advocate of Moyes, isn't he? I think they get on really, really well. So I think, you know, he's kind of a little bit on Moyes' side. Hammerett. Moyes wants the best looking CV for his future work. He doesn't want us to fail this season. What do the players want out of this season? Their performances in 3 games is making me wonder. I don't know what Moyes wants after this gig at West Ham United. I would hazard a guess he'll probably want to move upstairs somewhere, you know, director's role or something like that. I wonder if this is Moyes' last managerial gig. Gavin, we're boring, reminds me of Charlton, but with so-called better players. Yeah, we are boring. I agree with that. Delton, we need to be still in Europe in the new year and around 8 in the Premier League to challenge for Europe to attract decent players and a good manager. Don't disagree with you on that. Cruel Hulkser, good evening to you. Lags, you remind me of Everton when Moyes was here. Exactly the same turgid shite. Well, it's interesting. Thank you for joining, Cruel Hulkser. Much appreciated. Mr. Moyes. Mr. Mace, good evening to you. Heitinger looked like a Bulgarian window cleaner. Dlakavi, Xabi Alonso would be a dream. I rate him so highly. Mourinho said in an interview a while ago he behaves. Xabi has potential to be a top manager. Yeah, I agree. I really do. And by the way, who's out of work at the end of this season? Yeah, Jose. Anthony, would you want Mourinho as our manager? He's another one that plays with, you know, sort of bus parts, you know, and all that sort of stuff. Defensive football. But he's won a lot of things, hasn't he? Anthony, if Moyes does get the sack, I'd like to see Kevin Keane and Mark Noble as interim managers to the end of the season. I'd like to see Keane maybe as an interim. Mark Noble is honestly, with the greatest of respect to him, nowhere near ready to go anywhere near managing. But Keane, well, yeah. Mr. Mace, Will Still is doing well in France. English West Ham fan. Yeah, someone just said apparently he's signed a new long-term contract. Kev, we've spent more money than ever in our history, but only have a few good players. Most are broken or past it. I don't agree with that. I do still think we need more players. We need maybe another 3 or 4 in order to make us a really good squad. I think we've got a good nucleus. I think we've got 15, 16 players that are good footballers. And then, but in order to have a proper squad, you know, a squad of 20 players, I agree we need a few more. Andrew, because I have East End roots and remember the pretty footy West Ham used to play decades ago, for better or worse. Yeah, I know, under Greenwood, under Lyle, etc. Yeah, but how many English managers are really that good at this moment in time? You know, Potter is about one of the only ones that might be, you know, that's had a modicum of success with Brighton, but other than that, I don't know. I'm at the bottom. I hope we get Kev. I hope we get a new manager, but Sullivan seems happy with average. I don't think he is, mate. I really, from what I was told today, I think Sullivan is beginning to itch a little bit and maybe looking at an alternative. Mark, just sack Moyes, get Warburton till Alonso is available. I'm not so sure about Warburton either, to be quite honest with you, mate. Stephen Burridge. I reckon Phil Neville could be prized from his role as assistant manager at Canada. Is that a joke or are you being serious? That I don't know. Old man. What manager wouldn't want a 65,000-seater stadium? Our team is strong. Owners have invested poorly, but with Steidten here now, 400 million. Who wouldn't want to come? It's good, you know, good points there. We've got a big stadium. We've got good fan base. We've got, whether you like them or not, we've got owners who are investing in the club, you know, and we've also got Tim Steidten as well. Dlakavi. Jose Mourinho, I'm not sure how I would feel about him as West Ham manager. I'm not either. I would throw it out there, but I'm not either. Wolf, I do like how much passion Mourinho has for the game. I used to love Bilic running down the sidelines and celebrating when Payet scored. And Clive Woodward for manager. Right. I think that's it. Neville, it is a joke. Adam, great show. Thank you. Appreciate it. I've got to be. Life is too dull to be worried about football. Football is great when it's great, but when it's not great, I know it's shit. But we've got to look on the bright side, haven't we? That's it. I'm done. 1 hour, 59 minutes and 55 seconds gone. People, thank you very much. Really much appreciated. Keeping me on my toes as usual in the chat. Really, really appreciated. Obviously, the Arsenal game's coming up. I will try and do some kind of I'm not really good at doing previews, to be quite honest with you. So, but I'll try and do something. If I do, I'll do a pre-recorded one tomorrow at some time, if I've got the time. Of course, when we score half a dozen goals against Arsenal, watch out for the videos that I'll put on during the game when I'm there, and I'll put them up on the channel. So look for those as well. But otherwise, have a great week. Don't stress. Enjoy it. We're going to beat Arsenal. Alvarez is going to take Declan Rice out. Not permanently, of course. But look, be on the pot. We've got to be on the positive, haven't we? Have a great week. Look forward to the game on Wednesday. We're going to get through to the next round of the League Cup. You know we are. And it's all going to be good. And I'll see you all very, very soon. And don't despair. There's worse things that can happen.